Imagine building a highly lucrative personal brand, starring in over 150 films, and securing, the equivalent of an Oscar nomination in your field.
Right, a massive achievement.
Yeah, and doing all of that while secretly flying home to Arizona to pack school lunches for your toddlers.
Which is just wild to think about.
It really is. Today, we are diving into a career that defies, like, almost every single stereotype of the late 1990s and early 2000s media landscape.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, usually you hear about personal branding as this very rigid corporate playbook
Right.
where the universally accepted formula is just, well, more visibility equals more success.
Exactly. You find a target audience, you hit every marketing channel, and you say yes to every single opportunity just to ensure you stay relevant.
Yeah, and that volume approach is incredibly common because, honestly, it feels safe. We like established formulas.
Here.
Professionals want to know that if they put in a specific amount of networking, they'll receive a specific amount of career growth in return.
Makes sense.
But when you step into the world of the adult entertainment industry, specifically looking at that era before high-speed internet changed everything, I mean, that standard playbook is completely useless.
Totally.
You're dealing with a professional landscape that was highly stigmatized, incredibly complex, and completely dominated by massive gatekeeping studios.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that is exactly why I was so eager to dive into this stack of sources with you today. We are looking at the really fascinating career of Ashton Moore.
Yes.
Our mission today is to explore her highly strategic career trajectory, how she managed her brand in a really controversial field, and her incredibly graceful transition out of the public eye.
It's such a great case study.
And just to set the tone for you listening, we are examining her professional evolution through an informational, respectful, and entirely neutral lens. We really want to separate the highly produced on-screen persona from the brilliant strategist actually pulling the levers behind the scenes.
Yeah, because it serves as a phenomenal example of professional autonomy. But to really understand her strategy, we kind of have to look at the mechanics of the industry during that era.
Right, the late 90s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Back then, you couldn't just, create content on a smartphone and upload it directly to a massive audience.
Oh, right. No direct-to-consumer platforms.
Right. Production required expensive cameras, professional lighting, sound engineering, and most importantly, physical distribution networks just to get DVDs onto store shelves.
So the studios held a total monopoly.
Exactly. They held all the cards and all the power.
Well, her origin story perfectly sets up how she navigated that specific monopoly. So she was born on March 31st, 1976, in Newport Beach, California, but she was raised primarily in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Right.
And her introduction to this world didn't happen by just, walking onto a movie set one day. It happened when she was just 17 years old.
Working as a waitress at an adult nightlife venue. Which is, that's a profound detail when you think about the kind of business education she was getting there.
Oh, for sure.
At 17, working in a venue like that, you are getting a front row, completely unvarnished look at the mechanics of mature entertainment. She wasn't just serving drinks.
No.
She was observing how performers operated as independent contractors.
Yeah.
How management ran the venue's finances, and really how the transactional nature of attention actually worked.
Right. She saw the reality of the business without the glamorous Hollywood filter applied to it.
Precisely. It demystified the whole environment for her. She saw the grueling schedules, the intense power dynamics between talent and management, and just the sheer effort required to maintain an audience's interest.
So when she eventually transitioned into working as a house dancer herself after high school, she was walking in with a really strong foundational understanding of the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, and just to clarify for everyone, being a house dancer meant performing for live audiences within a venue,
Right.
which requires an immense ability to read a room, understand pacing, and develop an incredibly thick skin.
Which brings us to a massive turning point in 1998. She's 22 years old, working as a house dancer in Arizona, and she makes this very calculated move. She submits photos to the Hot Body International contest,
Yes.
and she ends up placing third, which, it's like a high-fashion modeling scout discovering you at a local mall. It's chance colliding with ambition. But why does placing third in a 98 contest matter so much?
Because in 1998, contests like that were the primary scouting grounds for those massive studios we just talked about.
Oh, okay.
Breaking into the adult entertainment industry with any sort of real standing is notoriously difficult. The barrier to entry for a legitimate contract was huge.
Right.
Most newcomers had to start entirely from the bottom. They'd do uncredited background work, take lower-paying jobs with smaller, less reputable producers, and essentially endure this grueling entry-level phase just to build up a portfolio.
So, by placing in this highly visible contest, she basically bypassed the entire mailroom phase of her career.
Exactly. She entered the field with built-in momentum. Placing third acted as this vetted stamp of approval from the industry. It immediately caught the attention of agents and, really significantly, caught the eye of renowned photographer Suze Randall.
Yeah, our sources emphasize that working with someone of Randall's caliber right out of the gate is a massive deal.
Oh, it's the equivalent of a startup getting its very first round of funding from a top-tier venture capital firm.
Wow, okay.
It signals to everyone else in the market that this person is a legitimate talent, someone worth investing in. And that photo shoot led directly to her very first film in mature media, The Naked Truth, that same year.
So she arrived with the spotlight already established.
She did.
And when she had that spotlight, the way she used it was deeply unconventional. I mean, between 1998 and her eventual retirement, she amassed a filmography of over 150
A
titles.
huge catalog.
Yeah, but I want to focus on her pivotal contract years with Jill Kelly Productions, or JKP, from 2002 to 2005.
This is a crucial era for her.
It really is. Identifying as bisexual, she made the deliberate choice to focus almost exclusively on female-centered, mature content. In fact, she famously refrained from any collaborations with male co-stars for 3 full years.
What's fascinating here is how she separates herself from almost everyone else in her cohort. I mean, setting boundaries of that magnitude early in a studio contract is practically unheard of.
Wait, I need to stop you there and push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
In an industry built entirely on volume, where the goal is catering to every possible demographic to maximize DVD sales, isn't refusing to work with male co-stars basically commercial suicide?
It sounds like it, yeah.
Like, if the studios hold all the power, how does she not just fade into total obscurity by turning down a massive percentage of her potential jobs?
Well, it seems counterintuitive until you look at it through the lens of luxury branding. Think of it as the Ferrari model of media. Ferrari could easily manufacture millions of affordable sedans and sell them to everyone. But instead, they make a limited number of highly specialized cars, they create artificial scarcity, and suddenly consumers are desperate to get their hands on one.
Ah, so by saying no to certain types of collaborations, she created artificial scarcity.
Exactly. By limiting her availability, she actually increased her demand. Boundary setting is a huge form of power.
So she made herself the Ferrari of her studio.
She absolutely did. In a controversial field where performers are heavily pressured to just do everything, saying no allowed her to control her own narrative.
Right.
By carving out this highly specific niche for herself, she cultivated a dedicated, loyal audience that knew exactly what they were getting when they purchased an Ashton Moore title.
Yeah, she stopped competing with the generalists and started completely owning her specific vertical.
And she paired that strategic vertical with a very distinct visual branding that the fans just obsessed over.
Yes, the look was so specific. She was petite, standing at 5'3" with an enhanced figure, which, our sources note, was a deliberate professional investment she made early in her career.
Right.
But it was her styling that really stood out. She had this classic blonde hair, but she mixed that traditional 90s glamour with a very edgy tattooed aesthetic.
And we have to contextualize those tattoos for the era.
True.
Today, visible tattoos are ubiquitous across all forms of media. But in the late 90s and early 2000s, having visible ink on camera was a very distinct, almost rebellious stylistic choice.
Yeah, the sources mention specific pieces like roses, a bunny emblem on her chest, a champagne glass on her ankle, and even a Brittany text tattoo on her bikini line.
That juxtaposition is brilliant from a marketing standpoint. The classic glamorous blonde look appeals to a traditional audience, while the alternative edge of the tattoos pulls in a completely different demographic.
It casts a wider net visually.
Exactly. And you have to remember the physical mechanism of marketing in 1999.
Right, you couldn't rely on a digital algorithm to recommend your work to a user's feed.
No, your entire marketing campaign was literally a 5-by-7-inch cardboard box sitting on a crowded shelf in a video store.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Visual distinctiveness was your only weapon to grab a consumer's attention. That combination of classic glamour and alternative edge was essentially physical clickbait.
That makes perfect sense. She knew exactly how to market herself on those shelves, creating this recognizable brand identity that just jumped out at the consumer.
Exactly.
Okay, so she's built this incredible foundation. She's mastered the physical media marketing game, and she is dominating her specific niche at Jill Kelly Productions. But before we get into the massive pivot that changed the trajectory of her career, I need to drop a quick reminder. If you're enjoying the vibe, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. It really helps us out. So the niche strategy worked perfectly for her. But here is the problem with building the perfect niche, right? It eventually has a ceiling.
It's
To break into the absolute top tier of the industry and reach the highest level of earning potential, she had to break the very rules she had set for herself. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
In 2003, she decides to broaden her career. She takes on male-female collaborations, starting with a film called Erotic Focus.
Which represents a massive shift, not just in her content, but in her relationship with those massive studios. She didn't just dip her toe in, she fully transitioned her portfolio to appeal to the broader mainstream market.
And it paid off exponentially. I mean, she signed a major contract with Club Jenna running from 2005 to 2007 and began working with legacy studios like Hustler, Digital Playground, and Penthouse.
Huge names.
Right. How does a performer make that leap so successfully?
It really comes down to something the studios call bankability. Studios don't like to guess what the audience wants. They calculate financial risk.
Okay.
By the time she broadened her availability in 2003, she had already spent years proving her reliability.
Right. The track record was there.
Exactly. The studios knew that putting her face on a DVD cover guaranteed a specific number of units sold on day one, simply because of that loyal fan base she cultivated during her exclusive years.
So she brought her built-in audience with her to the mainstream studios, drastically lowering the studio's financial risk in hiring her.
Precisely. She had maxed out what she could achieve in her exclusive niche. So by waiting to open up her availability until she possessed that reputational capital, she got to negotiate her crossover on her own terms.
Landing contracts with top-tier studios rather than fighting for scraps at the bottom.
Exactly. She established a loyal base, and once her brand was solidified, she diversified her portfolio.
And she was suddenly working alongside top-tier peers, too. The sources highlight her collaborations during this era with some of the biggest names in the field, like Jenna Hayes, Sophia Rossi, Stormy Daniels, Tyler Faith, Starry Night, and Manuel Ferrara.
All heavy hitters.
Yeah, and she wasn't just participating in these broader collaborations, she was securing massive critical acclaim. It all culminated in a critical peak in 2007, where she received an AVN Award nomination for Best On-Screen Coupling for her work in Jenna's Provocateur alongside Manuel Ferrara.
And we should really frame how significant that nomination actually is.
Yeah, please do.
The AVN Awards function as the highest level of critical recognition within that specific industry. Being nominated, especially for a collaboration with someone as established as Manuel Ferrara, served as industry-wide validation that her pivot was a total triumph.
Right.
It proved conclusively that she wasn't just a niche performer who got lucky, but a highly versatile leading talent capable of carrying major studio projects.
She basically conquered one mountain, realized she had reached the summit, and then just hopped over and climbed a much bigger one.
Exactly.
But this brings me to the part of the deep dive that completely blew my mind.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, we spent this whole time analyzing her public persona, right? This highly publicized, award-nominated career spanning over 150 titles. But behind the scenes, her personal life was operating on a completely different frequency.
A totally different world.
Our sources point out that she faced no major controversies during her entire career. Contrast that highly publicized career with her remarkably low-profile personal life.
This raises an important question regarding how we view figures in mature media. Maintaining a spotless public record is incredibly rare for anyone in the public eye, let alone someone navigating a field that operates under such intense scrutiny and pressure.
All right. And here's the kicker. Wait for it. She was married to a man named Jay, and they had 2 children.
Yeah.
Now, if we look closely at the timeline in our sources, her children were born in 1996 and 2000.
Yep.
Wait, I just have to pause and process the math on that. That means she was raising a toddler and then had a newborn while navigating the absolute height of her career in the adult entertainment industry.
It's staggering to think about.
She was managing the grueling schedule of a studio contract while literally raising young children. The sheer mental fortitude to keep those two worlds entirely separate in the late 90s and early 2000s is phenomenal. It's the equivalent of living a superhero double life. But instead of putting on a cape to fight crime, her secret identity is just being a quiet suburban mom in Arizona.
Right, the level of compartmentalization required to manage those two realities simultaneously is just incredible. Think about the psychological toll that fame usually takes on individuals.
Oh, especially in controversial media.
Exactly. The lines between the persona and the person often blur, leading to the burnout and controversy we see so often. We often reduce these professionals to their on-screen personas.
Right, we assume they are the character they play.
Yes. The assumption is often that their personal lives must be as chaotic or boundary-pushing or dramatic as the media they produce. But Moore's ability to maintain a stable, scandal-free family life entirely challenges those ingrained stereotypes.
She didn't buy into her own marketing. She treated it as a profession, like a job where you clock in, you execute the strategy, you build the brand, and then you clock out and go home to your real life.
She maintained an incredible level of detachment. She didn't let the industry consume her identity. Her career was a vehicle for financial independence and success, not her entire existence.
Yeah.
And that emotional detachment from the persona is likely what allowed her to execute her final and perhaps most impressive strategic move.
The graceful exit.
Yes.
In 2007, right after securing her AVN nomination, right at the absolute peak of her crossover success when her Club Jenna contract ended, she just retired.
You walked away.
Yeah, she retired before the rise of modern subscription platforms.
Meh.
There was no dramatic burnout. There were no desperate attempts to cling to fading relevance by taking lower-tier jobs. She just made a clean break.
A very smart move.
And as of early 2025, at age 49, she lives quietly in Gilbert, Arizona, fully removed from the public eye.
It is the ultimate testament to her intentionality. The trap so many professionals fall into is not recognizing the difference between the peak of their leverage and the beginning of their decline.
Oh, that's such a good point.
They hold on until the market forces them out. She knew exactly when she had achieved what she set out to do, and she had the immense discipline to close that chapter while she was still on top.
So what does this all mean for us today? When we look at this stack of sources, the overarching theme of Ashton Moore's career is intentionality.
Completely.
She didn't just drift through a chaotic industry. She capitalized on an early modeling contest to bypass the grueling entry-level phase. She set incredibly firm boundaries to build a niche brand, creating that artificial scarcity we talked about.
Right.
She pivoted genres at exactly the right time to achieve mainstream critical acclaim. And finally, she knew exactly when to walk away and focus on her family in Arizona.
She navigated a pre-internet media landscape that was structurally designed to exploit talent, and instead, she utilized that very structure to build her own success entirely on her own terms. She maintained her agency in a studio system that usually strips it away.
Which leaves me with one final thought for you listening to mull over. Ashton Moore retired in 2007. That is just before the massive digital subscription boom fundamentally changed everything about how media is created and consumed.
A totally different world now.
Right.
Yeah.
She built her entire legacy during the era of physical DVDs, video store shelves, and massive studio gatekeepers. But imagine if she had started her career today.
Wow. Yeah.
In an era where performers can entirely bypass those massive studios, utilizing digital platforms to directly control their own distribution, marketing, and monetization, how differently would an inherently strategic performer like her have operated?
It's a fascinating lens through which you view the changing power dynamics of modern media.
It really is. Back then, a personal brand was a shield you had to forge yourself to survive the studios. Today, that brand is the entire kingdom.
It really makes you wonder the kind of media empire she could have built with today's direct-to-consumer tools.
It really does. But she built an absolute masterclass with the tools she had in '98. Thanks for diving into this one with me.
Anytime. It was a great discussion.